Good morning. It's time for another Friday breakdown right here on the Failure Stop Podcast channel, the #1 channel where law enforcement and first responders go to be informed and entertained. Got a little secret special guest for you guys today. So Tyler from the Anti-Hero Podcast, leaving the tactical realm of law enforcement, going into another realm so that he can have more time to do Anti-Hero Podcasts and, of course, Failure to Stop Podcast. So, but what this means is every other Friday, we have to have a special guest, which is good for you, bad for Tyler because he gets to miss out and hanging out with you guys. So today we have Fit Responder. We have Ted from Fit Responder, owner and founder of fitresponder.com. He's a retired police officer, now does fit cop stuff, fit first responder stuff full time. I'm stoked to do this breakdown with him today. Going to keep it a little loosey-goosey. Every other Friday will just be loosey-goosey. So the Fridays that we have Tyler on will just be like 100% breakdown. But I want to learn about these special guests because we've got a bunch of them lined up. We've got Yusuf coming on. We've got Ted from Fit Responder. I think we have BJJ cops lined up at some point. So we got a bunch, and I want to learn a little bit more about these folks. So we'll probably save the breakdown for the end of the show, so we can learn a little bit more about these guests. And I have so many questions for the Fit Responder. I've watched some of his YouTube videos, and I've got a lot of questions because fitness is a big part of my life, I would say. It's an important part of my life. So anyway, a lot of people in the live chats today. Will Cray, Bosco Autry, thank you guys. Abby Ellsworth, folk around, find out. Elijah, and then Marine's Bloodbath, member for 23 months. He says, will my milestone show up when they go live? We shall see. Well, you shall see no longer, sir. You have now saw it, seen it, as some would say. Today's show brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack and factormeals.com/Wolfpack50 for 50% off. Meal planning to the next level, which, boy, how serendipitous that we have Fit Responder on. And one of our ads today is Factor Meals. Let me go ahead. Oh, by the way, you're like, where's Josh? Where's the producer? Why didn't you introduce him? Another doctor's appointment. You guys know, like, if you followed long enough, you know he's got that dead leg. They might amputate it at this point, but he only has one leg, one real leg. A lot of consultations and things like that. It's a troubling time for him in that leg. So anyway, I'm running the show by myself today, and we'll go ahead and get this thing kicked off. Friday breakdown. Let's not go because it's not here. Is this the special countdown? Oh, they got a new special countdown for us. Huh. That's a new countdown. Hold on. Let's see what this is like.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up, giddy up. Oh, it's a cool countdown. It's a cool countdown. John, I think John made that. Good for him. Didn't even tell me he was doing it. It looks nice. I like it a lot. For those of you who are just listening, which is like 99.999% of you, really cool little YouTube thing there. Shout out to John, difficult to look at images, for doing that. He's one of our producers here. Does the Tuesday True Crime Show and also does the sports show on Thursdays here on the Failure Stop Podcast channel. That's enough of all that. Let's bring on Ted here. Let me unmute him, bring him to the stage here. Ted, Fit Responder.
Yes, hi. Thanks for having me.
What's up, brother?
Not much. Just getting my day started. Just had some coffee. Feeling good.
Do you have? Oh, that's right. Because you're behind me, right?
Not in person, unfortunately, but no. I am behind you. I think in time zones. Yes.
Time zones. Yeah. What are you? West Coast?
Originally, but I live in Utah, so Mountain Time Zone right now.
Oh, I forget about Mountain Time Zone. I don't know. What is that? Like 2 hours behind me?
You're East Coast.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's 11 your time right now. It's 9 my time.
Oh, good. Well, it's at least not California, where they're like 3 hours behind us. For those of you just listening, again, he has got just a really fit guy, as one would think that Fit Responder is, and he's got a beautiful mustache. So that's really all I'm focused on right now. I just can't stop staring at it. It looks really nice. Okay. Gosh, this is going to be a fun show. I got to talk about fitness really fast. Listen, when I was in the military and I was in law enforcement, and I've said this on the show before, fitness was a big part of my life, because I feel like you owe it to citizens. So if you're a first responder and you're in your car right now, you owe it to the people you are serving to be physically fit. Nobody wants to get rescued by a fat fuck. I mean, like, obviously we're going to take it, but like, mental battles are a big part of surviving traumatic incidents. And so, you know, what if it's a guy like me and you're like just a fat piece of shit and you're coming to like stop the bleeding, and all I'm thinking is like, oh God, I don't have a lot of confidence in this. You know, that might lead me to actually die, because I need all that positive energy I can. So anyway, that's how I always thought of it. And I always wanted to stay as physically fit as possible. Then when I got out of policing and first responder life, I was like, dude, I am never running ever again. I will never go back to the gym. I will just eat right. And that lasts for about 3 weeks. And then you don't eat right anymore. And then you get really fat. And I got really fat. And now I'm down those 21 pounds. I had to regain it. But it happens fast, right?
It can happen very fast. Yeah. How old are you?
I'll be 40 next month.
I don't know if you saw this statistic, and I don't know if it's true, but I read somewhere that like 95% of people over the age of 35 will never sprint again in their life.
I saw that.
If that's true, I'm sure it's most people probably won't, but 95%, that's sad.
Yeah, I saw that like in a reel or something.
Yeah, I think so too. I saw
that. Yeah, that is scary. I actually, it's funny because one of the guys in my gym that I do jujitsu with, he's really in good shape. And I told him yesterday that I was a little bit sore because I went for a run, but I PR'd my run. He's like, dude, I haven't ran in 15 years. I said, what? He's like, dude, I have not. I said, on a treadmill or anything? He's like, no. He's like, I have not ran in 15 years. I was like, man, and he's really in good shape. Really great jiu-jitsu practitioner. Grappler, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, never ran again. Maybe I might take a page out of it because I really do hate running.
I don't like running either, but I do it because, you know, it's a perishable thing, right? You don't use it, you will lose it. You're going to blow out a hammy or an Achilles tendon. So I don't know. If you have kids out there, I use that as my running. Is I'll play with them at the park, and that gets me motivated to run a little bit, at least short bursts. So you still have it in there somewhere.
Yeah. Fitness is a big part of it, though. And again, if you're a first responder, dude, it is your duty, it is your obligation to get in shape, feel good, look good, be good, maybe. Coin that, copyright it if you will. But I feel like when you work out, when you get back in shape, right? So I had never been out of shape, Ted. 8 years in the military, special operations side, was a fucking stud, became a cop, hard charging, street cop, always in shape, worked out every shift. And the first time in my life that I was out of shape was when I left policing, and then I stopped doing rugby. And in the course of 3 years, which a lot of these podcasters journeyed with me on these 3 years, I got out of shape. And you can't really be an alpha if you're not in shape. Not that I want to be an alpha, but an alpha in my household, maybe an alpha in my mind. But if you walk by the mirror and you feel like a piece of shit because you don't like what you see in the mirror, then that's what you're going to project on your family, on your business, on whatever it is that you're doing and trying to be an alpha at in life. It's going to project. Am I wrong?
I think you're absolutely right. And I see that all the time. Like, I think a lot of people get in shape initially because there's some red flag, whether it's like a health issue, or as you said, you walk in front of the mirror and you're like, okay, I'm done with this. Or you can't fit into that uniform shirt, you're class A anymore. But so people go off some initial reason like that. But every time, you know, I work with someone and they get in shape, at the end, they talk about how it translates to all the other areas of their life, you know, and like you just said, I feel more confident. I'm happier. I have less anxiety. You know, I got that promotion. I asked the girl, whatever it is. But yeah, I truly do believe it's one of the most essential assets we can have, our fitness and our health, because it does translate to confidence and productivity and just wellness in all the other areas of our life. You know what I mean?
It does. It's like the cornerstone. So it's a good base, right? It's a good foundation. Being in shape, or at least trying to get in shape. I was doing some stuff with some detectives last week, and I was walking back with the detective, and even though that I'm a former cop and all these other things, and people know me on the podcast, they had me walk behind him in his own office, and this guy was extremely fat, like probably pushing 300, and no detective should ever let you walk behind him. But you could tell that this guy doesn't care about himself, and therefore he doesn't probably care much about his job. And even the way he mouth breathed and conducted himself and held himself up when I was walking through the department, and of all the people, this guy that greeted me first, I could tell that he gives the least amount of shits about his job. And I bet you his family life sucks too. You can just tell, right? There's two types. There's the one that's morbidly obese and doesn't give a fuck about his family because he's morbidly obese. And then you have the dude that's in super great shape that doesn't care about his family because he cares more about being in great shape. Right?
There's those two. Sure. Those
two. You got to be in the middle somewhere. You got to be in the middle somewhere.
It's brutal.
Where were you a cop at?
I was a cop in Ventura County, which is in Southern California, 11 years.
Ventura County. Pretty famous spot.
Yeah.
Is that where Dogtown was?
I know they filmed. I'm not sure about that. Well, no. So Dogtown, that's right. That murder story. I want to say that was Santa Barbara, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it sounds. Yeah, I think it was either like Santa Barbara. Isn't Ventura pretty close to Santa Barbara?
Very, very close. I went to school in Santa Barbara. But they did film True Detective 2. I want to say either in or it was based on Ventura County. But they had like the uniforms look almost the same, and they did ride-alongs and stuff to research the show. But
is Ventura considered the Valley?
I don't believe it's considered the Valley. I think the Valley would be like Simi Valley or like closer to LA.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just remember in Dogtown where they're like, "Go back to the Valley, kook."
Right. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. It's a crazy story. It's a true story, based on a true story.
It is. I saw that my sons are like basically professional skateboarders at this point. They're like completely sponsored skateboarders, and they skate in these massive skating events. And their favorite movie is Dogtown, the documentary and the actual movie. So like they went as characters for Halloween a few years ago. So they were all the characters. So I've seen the movie, unfortunately, 1,000 times. 1,000 times. So you were a cop in Ventura County, and what made you want to become the fit responder? Real fast.
It was kind of like on accident because, I was out of shape as a deputy at one point, and I had high blood pressure. I was overweight. So I'm like, all right, forget this. I couldn't stand it anymore. So with the help of my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I got in good shape. And to try to make a long story short, after enough time, and I was a personal trainer at the time, I started coaching people on the department. And then like word started to spread, like, man, how'd you get in shape? Oh, talk to Ted, And I think that like it came with a lot of credibility, my coaching, because my wife and I were both in really good shape, and we have kids, and we were both cops working full time. So we're, proven that it is doable, So that's kind of how it started. We started coaching people in the department. It just grew and grew and grew. And then as I kind of grew my online presence, eventually, it didn't make sense to go back to work anymore as a cop. I really loved focusing on fitness coaching, and I felt like we were able to make a better impact. So yeah, that's what I do full time now.
It's awesome. Will Cray says, I made his coworker mad with the comment about the detective look. In law enforcement, if you are extremely fat in law enforcement, you probably have a shitty home life. All I'm saying, if you're jacked, super jacked, and in really, really good shape, and you've got like shaved arms and all the things, you probably have a shitty home. Now, like I'm talking like generalizing here. Like there are flyers. There's always outliers. Okay. What I'm saying, generally speaking, in law enforcement, from my experience, if you're super fat, you probably have a shitty home life. And if you're super, super awesome at fitness, you have a shitty home life. I'm not saying everyone. It's like when I say the mental illness nose trinket, is every single person that has that little nose trinket that dangles from their nose have mental illness? No, but do 99.9% of them? Yes. You know what I mean? There's that 0.1% out there. There is. There's actually a girl that I know, and she came after me for that comment. She was like, I have one of those, right? And I'm not crazy. And I was like, yeah, but in my brain, I'm like, are you serious? Like, you are batshit crazy. Are you fucking serious? Like, you had an OnlyFans for a couple months. Like there's some mental illness going on there, right?
Crazy people don't always know they're crazy.
Yeah. That's why people have been calling me crazy forever. I think they're crazy. They're crazy. Wow, the guy he's working with is 400 pounds. Well, I don't know if that's safe. 400 pounds doesn't seem safe, right? It seems like you're skateboarding without a helmet. You know what I mean?
It's a good
Going
analogy.
to work without a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, I like to say that, and I've said this before, I would say going to work as a cop significantly out of shape is worse than going to work without a gun as an in-shape person, because you are way more likely to get into some kind of business that requires your physical fitness. You're more likely to go hands-on, more likely to run. You're way, way, way less likely to use your gun. And so, yeah, I would venture to say that going to work significantly out of shape as a cop is worse than going to work without your gun.
There's statistics about like how good a cop looks versus what, I mean, that was from the 90s. Like there was a big study done in the 90s about people who run from the police. And the study shows that cops who have shiny shoes, pressed uniforms, are in good shape. Like criminals were a lot less likely to run. Back in the 90s, people didn't use force against the police like they do now. People don't run anymore. Now they just fucking try to fight you, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I blame that on Michael Brown. I will say, and maybe it's different for you in California, because I mean, dude, East Coast, West Coast, we're two different worlds. Like you guys get music like 10 years before we do. We're like, dude, have you ever heard of Sublime? They're really good. And you're like,
no way.
Dude, what? Sublime? That was like in the 90s. We're just now getting Sublime music on the radio here.
Love it.
I'm joking. But prior to Michael Brown, everybody would run. And I feel like after Michael Brown happened, all of a sudden people were like empowered to want to fight you. Was that the same for you guys?
You know, I got to say in Ventura County, the population of turds, like the people who are frequent flyers, the ones you deal with, I don't think we're really much involved in that culture. If you could read between the lines, if you know what I'm saying, I think most of them tended to be like Hispanic gang members would be like a lot of the gangs that we dealt with. And then you got your typical meth heads and heroin addicts and whatnot. But like, you know, the people that I got into fights with were typically mentally ill more often than not. Like you didn't deal with like the empowered, I'm going to resist cops because they're all pigs type people. I think you see a lot more of that in other types of cultures in other states. Maybe LA, you see more of that.
Yeah.
I didn't see a ton of that in Ventura County. And I kind of I left the career in 21, but you did. Yeah. I mean, you did see some of that popping up. I mean, I think there's definitely the tendency across the board in law enforcement. And I work with cops all over the country. You see the tendency to be more reluctant to use force, right? Like you just see that tendency with cops currently. They're more tentative. They're more, I guess, afraid, for lack of a better word, to use force. And I think that does have an effect on the population, and especially these people who have frequent run-ins with cops. Like, oh, okay, last time this happened, nothing happened, right? And they're gonna push the envelope a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So yeah, I do think you're definitely seeing some of that. Yeah,
I mean, like pre Michael Brown, it was like, I'm going to give you my ID and I'm going to run. Now it's like, I'm not giving you my ID. You can't do that. I know my right. Like it was just, it all kind of flipped. The whole script flipped. And then like these arguments started happening, and the departments were empowering them, because if you have an argument and the argument goes pretty well and you de-escalate the situation, but you happen to say fuck 6 times, now the cop's getting rid of. And then the criminal or the person and the suspect is getting a phone call saying, hey, just let you know, we wrote this officer up because that was not polite of him to say fuck, even though you didn't have to use force on the guy. You were able to get him into voluntary compliance or whatever. But now they're like, oh, so these cops aren't allowed to cuss at me. And then it's a, you know, by 2018, 2019, I feel like cops really just kind of lost 100 yards that they had in the early 2000s. You know what I mean? Where there was just this respect that we just completely lost. Not that we had a lot of respect before Michael Brown, but what little we had, I feel like it's gone. Murphy30 says West Coast has had that issue for a while, but Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, and LA are all pretty anti-cop. At least politicians are. Usually the citizens in the ghetto aren't. That's interesting. Fat fit, love it. I just got a new pair of skates to hit the skate park. Falling ain't easy though. And it's a lot harder when you're fat. Listen, guys, I get it. I got out of shape when I left law enforcement. I got back in shape. I feel a lot better. I'm more fat shaming cops because I feel like it's part of your job. Like if you're not a cop, do you? I promise you, you'll feel better if you lose weight, or if you're in some kind of discipline where you're trying, you're making an effort, you're picking up the dumbbells, you will feel better about yourself. You never get done with a workout and be like, man, I wish I didn't work out. But as a cop, it is your fucking duty. Like that's your job.
Amen.
If you're a firefighter, it's your job. Your guys around you absolutely 100% count on you to, you never know, a flash flood. You got to be able to swim. You need to know how to be able to carry somebody that's got broken legs. I mean, I had an incident where a guy tried to run from us and jumped down into a ravine and he snapped both legs. It took hours to get him out, and we were afraid, like he went into shock. But we're a Raleigh, big city. We don't have baskets, like mountain baskets and stuff. So one, we had to figure out, like, I don't know if they had to borrow one or find one. It took hours to get this bitch out of the ravine, but he ran. It was like 40 feet down, and he tried to jump it, and he missed and fell all the way to the bottom.
What would have been great is you find him with both broken legs, right? And then you're like, shoot, I can't find this guy. 1098, not sure where he's at. Guy's got to go. just leave him.
Like,
let him crawl out by himself.
He's like,
I can say that now that I'm retired. But,
I'm right here. You're looking at me. And
yeah,
I don't see him.
I don't hear him. I don't hear anything. We got to go, guys. Let's go on to the next call.
Oh, that's excellent. But yeah, so then when they finally did get the basket and the guy to operate the basket, he was super fat. And the three first responders trying to get this basket cage thing down this ravine, falling over each other, having to come up with just these fat mouth breathers. I imagine if that was one of your buddies or like a halfway decent human being down there, your confidence, like it would suck to be down there in that position for that long. And then when help does arrive, you're like, that's it. That's what I've been waiting for 2 hours for, is that. Again, I just think you owe it to the community to be in shape. You owe it to your friends and your family. Your family doesn't want you to die because you couldn't survive a fight. We're going to play a video here shortly of a fight where thank God the cop was fit, but I don't know that he necessarily needed to be fit for this video. But imagine if he couldn't shoot him and what that fight was going to look like. It's kind of important to be fit. Before I do jump into that, I'm going to play this video and then I'm going to do a little ad read.
You're on patrol or you're traveling, you're out and about in your vehicle and you want to get something to eat. All you got's a gas station. Let's see if we can find some stuff that's not too bad and won't set you back with your fitness goals. All right, perfect. Ice cream right here. No, just joking. Obviously, stay away from this crap right here. Just ignore it. You don't want it.
He's talking about Little Debbie's. I forget. People are listening to this. They're not watching it. He's talking about Little Debbie's. I'll continue.
See if they got some protein bars. That's pretty easy to go to. So this is all candy. That's an obvious no. I'm definitely going to avoid all of these snacky things. One thing that gets people in trouble is unmanaged snacking, just like mindlessly eating chips from a bag. You'll have no idea how much you ate. Surely you will have overate. But when it comes to drinks, I'm not the biggest fan of energy drinks, but if you're going to get one.
Oh, can't hear you.
I'm not a fitness guru, so let me throw up a question. It's not an argument, just a question because I don't understand it. Mindless snacking, huge deal. I know that when I got pretty out of shape the last 2 years, I got out of shape. Big part of that was chips and salsa. Couldn't stay away from them. Now excuse me, I'm choking on a cheese stick. Now I fill my house up with fruit, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, tons of fruit. Because I do like to mindlessly snack. And again, I'm not a fitness guru. I don't know anything about fitness, but I just figured I love to snack. If I open the refrigerator, I'm chewing on something. If I have a whole bunch of fruit, I like sweet shit, I'll eat the fruit. But I know that you go on to this video to say stay away from anything with sugar in it. What is your take on people like me who mindless snacking is a big deal?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, first of all, when I say stay away from sugar, I just mean that a ton of products out there have added sugar in it, and sugar just tends to be very calorie dense. So like there isn't anything inherently evil about sugar. You could have sugar throughout your day, but it just tends to be something that really packs in calories in a way that doesn't satiate you, right? So if you're eating 200 calories worth of stuff that's very high in sugar, it's not going to be as filling and as satiating and as productive for your energy and all the other things as something else that's maybe mostly protein or protein and fat or a complex carb for 200 calories. So like when you're talking about, I love to eat fruit, you know, Ted, I love to snack, and I've picked things like blueberries, strawberries. That's great. That stuff's great. It's high in fiber. There's a lot of water in it. So it's going to be more satiating than just, let's say, a sugary drink or candy or whatever else. So yeah, I think when people get in trouble with mindless snacking, it's going to be, most snacks tend to be very calorie dense. They tend to be processed, and that's why we like them. That's why we like the pretzels, the chips, you know, the candy bars, the donuts, the cookies. It's because every square inch of those things tends to have more calories than whole food sources like fruits, like you were mentioning. So that's where I tend to caution people, because if you're the type of person like you are, hey, I like to snack all day, but I choose things like beef jerky and fruit and other whole food sources, it's going to be a lot harder to get yourself out of shape that way. Right. And you can always make adjustments. If you are a snacker and you do choose good snacks, like I mentioned, but you still are overweight, well, obviously there's a leak in your game, and you're going to have to start managing and controlling that snacking or your portions better.
All right, let me keep going with this because it gets better.
Go with 0 calorie. I would avoid ones that have 300 milligrams of caffeine. So for example, Monsters almost always have 150 milligrams of caffeine. That's somewhat reasonable. But then you're looking at stuff like Bangs or Nos or Reign. Those are 300 milligrams. I would stay away from those. And I'm looking for 0 sugar, 0 calories. So this says 0 sugar. That's a good sign. It's got 10 calories in a can. That's pretty much nothing. It's got 140 milligrams of caffeine. So
let me ask this. I'm extremely against energy drinks. I know that when I got fat, I was addicted to energy drinks. I think that they are. I've never been addicted to anything in my life. Like in that 2-year period, I got addicted to energy drinks. In the 2 years that I decided that I was done being a fit guy and I was just going to be a full-time dad, I ended up thinking I need an energy drink to be able to do X. Oh, my kids have to do this today. I'm going to need an energy drink. And I was stopping at the gas station. Is there anything to that? I truly believe in my heart. I don't have the science behind it, but I think those things are addicting. Am I crazy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, caffeine is very addicting, you know, and it seems like most adults have some kind of physical dependency on it. And yeah, they tend to have a lot of caffeine. And then there's other stimulants in it as well, which we enjoy, right? We like the feeling of it. So there's no doubt. There's no doubt they're addicting.
Here's the problem I find with these energy drinks is that I think the underlying things that you're not like, when I was not in good shape, I was not sleeping well, and I was having like anxiety issues. I've never had anxiety in my life. I've always been anti-anxiety. I think it's like a term, just like the hydration in the military. I think that's all bullshit too. I think I think we drink way too much water as a society. You can go a fucking long way with very little water in your system, but now we're all like afraid that like, oh my God, the kid's gonna die on the football field if he doesn't have water every 5 fucking seconds. I thought the same way about anxiety. Like it's just unreasonable at this point. But at the time, now that I'm pretty healthy right now, I'm looking back on that 2-year period. And I know that when I made the decision to stop drinking energy drinks, because I wanted my kids to never drink them, I realized that I think a lot of the anxieties that I was having or angst was due to this overstimulation of caffeine and vitamins, and the lack of sleep was probably a part of that too.
100%. Yeah. I mean, caffeine, especially in excess, is known to cause anxiety, make anxiety symptoms worse. No doubt.
And we just for a society in the last 5 years has been obsessed with energy drinks. Yeah. Obsessed. We never had that. before though.
Right, I know. And it's funny, you look at the history of energy drinks. I'm surprised they didn't come up sooner. Like, I'm surprised they weren't invented sooner, because we know caffeine is addicting. And then now it's like, well, hey, a lot of people don't like the taste of coffee. Let's extract the caffeine. Let's put in a bunch of fruity flavored stuff, carbonated stuff. I mean, they all taste like sodas, and they got all the cotton candy flavor and other sugary flavored stuff. So, I'm actually kind of surprised looking back in history that these things didn't pop up sooner.
Well, they had Quaaludes and Speed.
Yeah, they had the real stuff back then. But yeah, I think it's a huge problem. And I talk to a lot of first responders who nonchalantly tell me they have 3 energy drinks a day. Oh, plus maybe a coffee. And oh yeah, I also do my pre-workout. And you wouldn't believe how many people are having 600 milligrams minimum a day, up to 1,000. I've seen guys have 1,500, 2,000 milligrams of caffeine a day, when most of the guidelines, if you look at the consensus, they say we shouldn't consume more than 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. And a Bang Energy has 300 plus all the other stimulants, right? So you're right there. I would say that most people don't know how many milligrams of caffeine. So listeners out there, I would ask you, like, do you know how many milligrams of caffeine you have in a day? Do you have any clue? And if you don't, you probably need to learn how to manage it and get it from sources where you can add it up.
Yeah, because I mean, I have noticed a huge difference when I stopped drinking energy drinks. I realized really quickly, one, I was getting like massive headaches, and I just felt like this panic to need it. And that's when I was like, yo, we're not doing the energy drink thing ever again. There was a little boy, my kids talk about it all the time, but they're at the skate parks. Everybody's sponsored by Monster. We actually turned down, and one of the reps was like, hey, did your kids ride for Grom Army? It's the kid version of it that we just promote the water. One, you can't even find the water in stores. So you're not really promoting the water. You're promoting the energy drink for sure. And I said, no, I think our kids are not going to do that. Because all these kids, dude, we're seeing like 13, 12, 11-year-old kids. This summer, we did like a summer camp with skateboarding. And this one kid in his lunchbox that I assume his mother packed, because he's the same age as my kid. So he was 11. Had 3 energy drinks in there.
It's crazy
for the day. I mean, the camp was 7:30 to 5. He drank one in the morning, and he drank one for lunch, and went at like 4 in the afternoon. And I was just like, bro, what is going on? This is insane. I now drink espresso. I got an espresso machine. I drink espresso a lot, probably like 3 cups a day. But I don't feel addicted. Like, I don't feel stressed out if I don't have my espresso. But yeah, I think that energy drinks and law enforcement, dude, there's so much adrenaline and stress on the job. I can't imagine what these energy drinks are doing to everybody's hearts.
Oh yeah. The thing is, we haven't done long-term studies on these energy drinks and regular consumption of them. We haven't done it, so we have yet to see what the health problems will be 20 years from now from people who have been drinking them for 30 years straight.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I just said Joe Russo in the chat says a nurse that he knows had a heart attack at 25 because of 2 bangs. Will Gray says, I do 1 energy drink a day and my pre-workout. I mean, that's probably too much, right?
Yeah, it's almost like, yeah. And I would ask you, Will Cray, like, why not try another source that's just not containing all the other stimulants? So like, there are energy drinks that I tend to like, because if you look at the ingredients, they're very minimal. It might have like 4 ingredients. It's like caffeine from green tea and sparkling water and natural flavors and something like citric acid, and that's it. So there are better versions of these things which are lower in the milligrams of caffeine, lower in all the other added stimulants. But same goes for pre-workout. So, because caffeine it's not apples to apples, right? You can't compare, well, hey, I have, a 200 milligram pre-workout. That's the same as a couple shots of espresso, right? Definitely very different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then you like what the fake sugars, like even in the 0-calorie ones, like they're pulling sugars from sources that we know give you cancer or have like cancer producing byproducts. So it's like kind of like, what is the other shit that you're putting in your body? I've got a friend that's extremely physically fit. He's a jiu-jitsu competitor, a CrossFit competitor, probably the most in shape person I've ever met in my life. But he's like into the fat-free mayonnaise and the fat-free ranch. And I'm like, dude, the ingredients that are inside of that stuff, none of that is really good for you. So yeah, I mean, it keeps you lean and mean, but like, aren't you afraid of like getting the cancers and all that stuff? I mean, I don't know. Again, my wife is very holistic. We do home births. We do, we cook all of our own food. We barely eat out. Do the raw eggs, the raw milk, unpasteurized raw milk straight from a cow. It's illegal, but we do it anyway. So I don't really have a problem. I mean, luckily for me, my wife shames me if I put something crazy in my body. She's never stopped me, but I don't know. Like, I guess I'm hyper aware of all of the bad shit and some of these fat-free products that I don't know if the risk outweighs the reward.
Yeah. In Tyler, when I was on his podcast, he's asking me about like what my diet advice is and what things I look out for. And I think common sense goes a long way. So if you look at an ingredient list and there's a ton of different ingredients, most of which you don't understand or several of which you don't, that could be a sign that that's something you should avoid, right? Like if your diet is mostly based on whole foods, single ingredient foods, sure, like add spices and all that fun stuff. And sure, do the processed stuff every now and then, artificial sweeteners, whatever. But when you're going to an excess or when you're not looking at these ingredient labels, and yeah, many of which you have no understanding of what they are, to me, that's a clue. It's like, maybe this is something we should avoid.
Yeah. Somebody says Diet Coke is insanely bad for you, Jody. So I do one Diet Coke a week. It's on poker night, mainly because I don't drink really that much anymore. I especially don't drink out in public at all. I don't know. It's just something I just don't really like to do, mainly because I always got a gun on me and shit. So I do have one Diet Coke at poker night as my guilty pleasure for the night. That and sometimes maybe a cigar to go with it if I'm feeling really shitty. Let me continue on with this video.
If I'm going to go with an energy drink, I may go with something like this. So probably what I'd opt for, though, is something like this, like a Fresca. This is sparkling soda water. It's got 0 calories, doesn't have a bunch of crap in it.
Now, I love this because we skateboard a lot every single day and we're out. And so unfortunately, it doesn't matter how many snacks I buy at Aldi, we always end up stopping at the gas station, which I hate, but we do it almost every fucking day to get a Gatorade or something. So this Fresca thing is interesting to me that it's healthier. Might be a good option for the boys.
So stimulants, or how about just some freaking water? Drink more plain water. Actually good for you. All right, so we found the protein bars. They're hidden. They're surrounded by junk food, Pop-Tarts and Chips Ahoy. But here they are. So how do you find what's a good protein bar? I go by total calories and total grams of protein. So I know that 1 bars are pretty good, like pretty tasty. Just a couple options here, but like there's so many different flavors. Rough rule of thumb is look at the total calories and make sure the grams of protein is about 10%. So with one of these bars, you have 220 calories, 20 grams of protein. So that's about right. So I like that. We're gonna go with this. Beef jerky. So beef jerky can be good. Sometimes there's a lot of sugar in these. So here we go. This one says 0 sugar.
So I started eating some first responder beef jerky. One from a guy that just left law enforcement, started his beef jerky company, and then canned it and went back to law enforcement. But he was like no sugar, no anything. Like all of his flavorings were like super natural and everything. But so that's what got me into looking at all the different ingredients on the back of beef jerkies, man, like MSG, and there's a lot of stuff that they put in beef jerky other than just the beef jerky.
Yep. I think nowadays we have to be careful consumers. We know the government's not looking out for us. We know school's not teaching us anything. So before you buy, it doesn't take that long. You look at the ingredient list, and then you just find your go-tos, right? You find your brands and your things that you like that have the good ingredients, and just get yourself a routine of go-to foods. If you're just winging it all the time, you're not looking at what you're eating, you're just rolling the dice.
Yeah, I think one of my super guilty pleasures, but it's not overtly bad. I mean, maybe it's really bad. Other than it's probably very high in sodium. But there's nothing extra added to it. There's no like MSG. There's no sugar. There's no anything. Is pork rinds. I mean, unless you get the flavored pork rinds.
I've never had pork rinds in my life. Isn't that weird? I need to try it.
Really?
I don't know
Dude,
how.
They're a great source of fat. Like if you're into consuming fat. When I was on the carnivore diet, that was like my guilty pleasure every once in a while because I told you I'm a snacker. So I'm not saying it's the best and most healthy thing in the world, but it doesn't have a lot of bullshit. in it. It's not like if you're going to eat chips, you might as well eat pork rinds. It's way better than the chips.
So let me ask you, they asked me yesterday, like, what do you think about the carnivore diet? And I can share my opinion if you like, but I actually want to ask you, why did you stop? Why aren't you on the carnivore for the rest of your life?
Oh, well, I do everything within reason. I'm pretty much done with this video, so let me remove it really fast. I got all the parts out of it. No, wrong one. Sorry, we don't have a producer. I suck at this. Here it is right here. Let me remove this. There we go. Now we're back. Why did I quit the carnivore diet? We'll get to that in just a second. Today's show brought to you by ghostbed.com/wolfpack. Sleep so good, it's scary. I always say that mental wellness, mental health starts with a good night's sleep. And number two, a very healthy diet. And that's why we're proud to be sponsored by ghostbed.com and Factor Meals. You guys would have no idea how many sponsorships I turned down from nicotine products, from energy drink products, from all these other products, because I'm really trying to promote healthy lifestyles for cops and make your lives better. And make money at the same time, not make money by selling shit that's going to make your life worse. Ghostbed has been a loyal sponsor of us since day one. We've been down to the facilities. You know this. They're American-made bed company, one of America's oldest bed companies. So passionate. Right now, they are 50% off across the board for first responders and veterans using the promo code WOLFPACK. All you have to do is go to failure to stop. Go to ghostbed.com. And you can use the promo code Wolfpack, or you can type in ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. They just sent me the massage topper. Oh my God, it's amazing. But they have the zero gravity, the adjustable base, comforters, sheets, cooling pillows. They now have a travel mattress, which we're family's getting a little RV van for our travels this year. So probably definitely going to get the Ghost Bed travel mattress because we're going to be on the road a lot with this new YouTube channel that my kids have going on. So big fan of Ghostbed. Head over to ghostbed.com right now. Get you sleep so good it's scary. Also, factormeals.com. Want to talk about promoting healthy living. These are fresh, never frozen, chef-prepared meals delivered right to your door. Meal planning to the next level. You go on the website, find my producer here. He would have the website up and go scrolling through it. Hundreds of menu items that you can choose from. And however many you want today, you want to do lunch and breakfast, you want to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you want to do just lunch, you want to do just dinner, you want to do just breakfast, go on factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. That's the number 5 and the number 0, Wolfpack50, and go ahead and start creating your meal planning so you don't have to go to the grocery and buy all the things, come back, cook all the things separately, look for your Pyrex dish lids and bowls and matchings and all the things. You could just go to factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Start meal planning. You want to do calorie conscious? Go ahead, baby. Lose some weight. Get the calorie conscious meals. You want to go protein heavy? 50 grams of protein at least per serving? Get the protein heavy package. You want to do vegetarian, vegan? You want to do the breakfast shakes or the protein shakes? They have all of that at factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Meal planning to the next level. Get in shape. 4th of July is right around the corner. Now's the time. Don't eat like a peasant in your law enforcement first responder kitchen by breaking out that gross bologna sandwich or that just disgusting peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which I'm a huge fan of actually. And then I put the potato chips on my peanut butter. Anyway, you don't have to do that. You don't have to eat like a peasant anymore. Go over to factormeals.com/Wolfpack50 and get your ass in shape, baby. All right. Carnivore diet. I do everything within reason. I'm never sold on anything 100%. I know that every year I do a diet on New Year's. I do it. I do a 30-day diet every New Year's. I've done this for, God, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years, something like that. New Year's resolutions. I'm a fan of it. I want to start the new year off good. I always try something new. So I've done all the fasting. This year, it was time for the carnivore diet. I did it for 36 days before I gave up on it. And honest to God, felt better than I've ever felt. That's by far my favorite. I liked intermittent fasting, but my commitment to the carnivore diet changed my life forever. So that was last year, and then I did it again this year. So I did it 2 years in a row, actually.
Why didn't you stay on it though? Like you said, you felt better than ever. So why not keep that? Why not keep it going? Because I like food too. I like cheese fries and stuff. But I'll tell you what, after doing the carnivore diet for 30 days, I'll only need like 2 or 3 cheese fries. Like one serving of cheese fries is good for the whole year. Okay.
Like I won't have cravings for cheese fries like I did. For whatever reason, the carnivore diet also like really got rid of my need for sauce. I eat nothing with sauce anymore. That's thank for the carnivore diet. I used to have all the mayonnaise, the mustards, the ketchups, the Chick-fil-A sauces. After I do the carnivore diet, I really don't need those anymore. I can eat a hot dog. Not that hot dogs are healthy, but I can grab a sausage, a bratwurst, and just put it right in my mouth. No bread, no nothing. So it really does kind of make it to where I knew that I didn't need. Now, it was also the hardest diet I've ever done. The first 2 weeks was awful. It was worse than keto for me.
You just felt bad? Made you feel what, tired, or what was it? Do you feel bloated?
Anxious. Just panicked. Like, fuck, I need some Chick-fil-A sauce. Fuck, I want like bread on this cheeseburger. I don't want to put another piece of bacon in my mouth. Now the second time I did carnivore diet, piece of cake. Like I could do the carnivore diet right now and have no problems. But the first time I did it, I was at my all-time fattest the first time I did it. I went from 190 pounds to like 220, 222 pounds. And then was like in a year, dude. And I was in bad shape because I was just sitting here behind my computer snacking all fucking day.
Right.
All fucking day.
Well, I've noticed that with diets in general, that like they're a good reset. That like you can get rid of some of the vices you've had, or like you get into these routines. Like you said, you're just used to putting mayonnaise and sauces on stuff. And I just found that in general, like if someone goes to some restriction method that eliminates those things, it's like a drug addiction. You kind of, it's painful for a week or two. And then it's like, I didn't really need that. And I noticed that with myself and clients. It's like, if I'm bodybuilding and I'm eating, chicken and rice and turkey and rice after that show for a good period of time, I'm like, hey, I can eat pretty clean. I don't really want X, Y, Z. So I don't know if that's exclusive to the carnivore diet, but I think that like when you exclude stuff for a while, you kind of lose like that habit, that need to go back to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I did intermittent fasting for 9 months a few years ago when I was still a cop. I liked that diet because I could eat whatever the fuck I wanted in that 4-hour time frame. And that was good for me because I'm the kind of guy that's like, all I got to do is wait 2 more hours and I'm going to eat. And I'd have like a whole list. So that diet is easy for me. Now that I have 5 kids, it's not easy because part of being a father is you have to make sure there's no waste in the house. So who didn't eat this last little bit of eggs on your plate and then I have to eat them? Who didn't finish their spaghetti and I have to eat that because there can't be any waste. So intermittent fasting is harder for me to do now. But the carnivore diet, I did it this year and I did it last year. This year was really fun because I was trying to get ready for a jiu-jitsu tournament. So that kept me really motivated. But man, I just doing jiu-jitsu. When I started jiu-jitsu in December, by the time January 1st came on, I was already down like 8 or 9 pounds, like in the month. Maybe not that much. Maybe it was like 6 or 7 pounds just from doing jiu-jitsu alone. And then I packed on the diet and I did the Factor meals. We got sponsored by Factor Meals, so I was starting to eat. I was able to meal plan really well with Factor Meals in February, but in January I did the carnivore, and bro, I'm down like I'm 206 this morning, and I was 227 in November, Thanksgiving weekend because I broke my arm and got weighed at the hospital. 227. Now I'm down to 207.
I wonder though, like just eliminating certain types of foods is going to have benefits, and just losing weight, right? So like I hear it all the time, I lost X amount of weight in whatever time doing keto, doing carnivore, doing paleo, doing Optavia, doing Nutrisystem, so like when you're restricting calories through some method, so all diets work the same. They all work in the same way in that they force you to restrict what you eat, which ends up causing a calorie deficit, which ends up helping you lose weight. And then when you lose weight and you're eating less processed stuff, you're going to have less inflammation, less bloating, and it's going to make you feel better. So that's a good thing. Like what I'm telling all the listeners out there is that restriction methods, whatever they are, tend to force you to eat better. You're also probably working out better because there's a reason why you're on that diet, right? Yeah. So some of these benefits, I can't say, well, that's because you didn't eat carbs. Well, that's because, you chose keto specifically or carnivore specifically. So this might demystify dieting for some people, and that like just losing weight, just the restriction method, just eliminating a lot of the crap, via whatever restriction method you're on, is going to have a lot of the same benefits. Is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think I learned the benefit of fat consumption. Like, I think the coolest thing about the carnivore diet for me, now I've done everything, dude. I've done keto, I've done Atkins, I've done all of them. I mean, every year for New Year's, it was like my thing. I read a book. I forgot the name of the book, but he does a diet for like 90 days for like, it's a famous book. He's been on Joe Rogan and everything. And so I don't know. I heard that years and years and years ago. I mean, Jesus, like early days of Joe Rogan. And ever since then, I'm like, dude, I'm going to do it every New Year's. I'm going to do a different diet. But the cool thing the one thing that I appreciate about the carnivore diet, and the reason why I did it 2 years in a row, is like your shit in your body is toxins. Like when you fart, those are toxins leaving your body. When you shit, that is toxins leaving your body. When you're on the carnivore diet, dude, you shit like once a week and your shit doesn't stink and it looks like deer pellets. You like after your second week of the carnivore diet, you don't fart anymore because your body is consuming all of the energy. And it is one of the most crazy things. And I would tell people, I'm like, dude, I haven't shit in like 4 days. And people are like, bro, that's so unhealthy. That's so bad for you. And I'm like, is it? And then I would shit and it'd be like little rabbit pellets and they wouldn't stink or smell and I wouldn't have to wipe my ass. And if you read the book that goes along with it, and when I did the Spartan diet, I read that book too. And, it tells you in the book why you're not going to shit a lot when you're, 3 weeks into this diet, 4 weeks into this diet. And I think there's a lot to say on that. So what I learned from that is that putting certain fats in your body isn't bad. Like your body can run off of fat and your guts a good proof in the pudding is raw milk, unpasteurized milk. There are so many people that are lactose intolerant, but they can actually drink, if they try it, unpasteurized milk and it will not hurt them at all. And it's because there's these fats in there that line your guts that make your guts stronger, just like yogurt. And when I was on the carnivore diet, I ate a fuck ton of yogurt. Never liked yogurt, didn't eat yogurt before, but just plain yogurt. I will eat plain yogurt almost every night now, still to this day. So
yeah, and I can say on the flip side of that, I tried the vegan thing for a few weeks because I was like, I'm just going to try it. And that was when, I don't remember when that was, some documentary that came out that's like, you're going to feel incredible if you do a plant-based diet. It's all the things that people who promote diets say. And I tried being vegan for 3 weeks. And so the flip side, the opposite effect occurred in terms of what your effects were for carnivore. I was farting like every 30 seconds. I probably pooped like 4 times a day. And I was a detective working in an office, cubicles all around me. This is not good at all. It was horrible. And people kept saying, just hold on, just keep going. You're going to feel good eventually. All the plant-based advocates. Yeah. But 3 weeks of that, I was like, no, I need to eat meat. Like my preferences aside, I am farting and pooping nonstop. So,
yeah, and that's bad. And like, did you know that that's one thing I learned from the carnivore diet too, is like beans. Like beans are so fucking bad for you, and that like most beans are regulated by the government, have to be steamed before they can even be delivered to you raw because they are so poisonous. Like
I just don't like beans because I'll fart nonstop. So I'm
just really bad for your body, and then they make you fart because they're bad for your body. They fill your body full of toxins. Again, I'm not a fitness guru, guys. Like, don't take fitness advice from Eric Tansey. I've always stayed in shape, but I'm also always been kind of a fat piece of shit. I enjoy being a rugby player. I enjoy being a hooker, and there's got to be a certain amount of thickness to being a hooker in rugby. So I've always taken pride of being a fat boy. So don't take advice from me, take it from Fit Responder. But I just say I like the carnivore diet because of what I learned from it every year. Like the pork rinds thing. I like to eat pork rinds every once in a while. I don't do sauces, which I think help me out a lot. And the yogurt helps me out a lot. And hot tea. Oh man, I fell in love with hot tea. With no sugar, no honey, just you can take the hot tea and then chill the hot tea and you have cold tea. It's just something different. I don't know. I just picked up more things, I think, from the carnivore diet than I ever did. Vegetarian diet, I wanted to blow my brains out, but that was mainly because vegetarians literally have a smell to them. I'm not talking about farts or shits. I just think vegetarians in general, they smell. You know what I mean?
Well, meat is so good. Like, what is better than really good barbecue?
Nothing.
Like, oh man, like I don't know about you, but beef ribs, like tender, like perfectly cooked beef ribs is my favorite food. So
Dude, and that was the coolest thing about the carnivore diet is like cooking on Sunday and like cooking a slab of ribs, cooking a prime rib, cooking all this stuff like all day. So you just have like a refrigerator full of meat and bacon all week that you can just go into at any moment. That is pretty fucking cool. Like, I don't know.
I love it.
But I'm again, like I'm a reasonablest. I like to say I'm part of the reasonablest party. If I had to form a party or a religion, it would be called the reasonablest. I just do everything within reason. You know, do it for 30, 40, 40 days and then enjoy some cheese fries. And, but one thing I'm not going to be reasonable with is energy drinks. I just think that I think they're poisonous, dude. I think there's something I don't know. I don't take this for fact, but there's something inside of my brain that tells me that taurine is not as good for you as you think it is. Because why are they putting taurine in everything right now? And why is everybody committing suicide right now? Why is everybody ate up with anxiety and heart attack? I don't know if it's the taurine, but I'm just saying everything has taurine in it now.
I can't speak to what's causing what taurine's doing specifically, but I'm with you in the sense that being reasonable and just not doing anything to an excess. So like people will be like, well, what do you think about sucralose? And I'm like, oh, I have Splenda, but I have 1 or 2 packets and that's it. And I don't eat everything that has sucralose in it. It's moderation, right? I think we've all forgotten
things.
We've all forgotten that kind of common sense rule. Like we all know alcohol is poisonous. We all know it. But if you have a drink once a week and that's what you do, you'll be okay, so.
Yeah, I like that. I like the moderation in all things. But I'm a fan of dieting. Whatever works for you, they're all fun. What's fun for me might not be fun for you. But I will say the one thing that's absolute is that when you are making a conscious decision to try, you will feel better. When you're on that couch and you say, I really need an energy drink to get up and get moving, and then instead say, you know what? I'm just going to go for a walk. Fuck it. Like I'm going to force myself out. I don't need an energy drink to go for a walk. I'm going to go for a walk. And if I still need an energy drink after the walk, maybe I'll go to the store. And you're making that effort. 9 times out of 10, you're going to go for that walk and be like, all right, okay. All right. I feel good. I feel like I can keep going. I don't really need to go to the store right now and go get an energy drink, Yeah. Energy drinks are bad for me, dude. I really, in that 2 years, I went from never drinking them to like 1 every day or 2 every day.
Yeah. And it is a dependency and then you don't have them and you're going to feel even worse. So might as well just get off of that crutch.
And you look fucking stupid holding that big giant can all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And then you want to drink beer at 5, right? So you've had like 2 energy drinks and now we're going to drink beer at 5 in the afternoon. Your body is like, dude, fuck you. What are we doing? Are we like staying awake? Are we getting depressed? Like, what are you doing to me? All right, let's break this down. We only got a few minutes left of the show and it's supposed to be a breakdown, but I find it fascinating. So I'm sorry. I know we were supposed to break it down, but I wanted to learn more about you and fitness because that shit's really exciting to me. Especially since you left your career to follow your passion, which is fitness. So go to fitresponder.com, right? Fitresponder.com.
Right.
You've got tons of different things on there to help people get in shape, motivations and plans, and they can sign up for something, right?
Yeah. So, there's free guides on there. You can check us out on Instagram. We have a free Facebook group called First Responder and Family Fitness. So there's some free tips, a great community in there as well. You can find all that through my website. And then you can check out our one-on-one coaching program. So just to shamelessly plug that. We have helped thousands of first responders all over the U.S. It's the top-rated program out there for first responders. It's not exclusive to first responders. We have other people in there, spouses of first responders, friends, family, nurses, security. But check us out on Google, 5 stars across the board, hundreds of reviews. Yeah. So proud of what we do. Check us out at fitresponder.com.
Yeah, we have to get you. We have a private group for FTS_Wolfpack, and then in that private Facebook group, we also have FTS Fitness. So, all you fitness guys, I'm going to post your shit in there for them to go over there and follow you in your private Facebook group too, because they're first responders that want to get in shape. It's a small group, but I think it's a lot of fun. I've posted some stuff in there, with my fitness journey. All right, let's go real fast. Let's break this down just because I have to break something down, right? Hey, somebody hit that timestamp right here, 59. Go to 1 hour mark is when we start the breakdown. That way I can tell people to fast forward. They don't want to hear all their stuff, which was really good.
A Facebook post shows the moment when a man rushed toward a state trooper. Investigators say he had a hammer in his hand. The trooper tries to push him away, but the man runs toward him again, and the trooper shoots him. Right before this, 911 calls came in about a man armed with a hammer who first rammed into work vehicles and equipment on the shoulder of I-5.
Subject is now in a white pickup ramming the truck.
Then allegedly attacked WashDOT contractors and the state trooper. A road rage incident unfolding right at rush hour.
We went outside, tried to take a look. Traffic came to a standstill. People were parked.
Alex Smith works at Boat Country, right next to where it happened.
I-5 was like stop and go. Mostly stop.
Mostly stop. That's my favorite part. Now that cop was super good fit, but state troopers are always pretty physically fit. As much as I hate state troopers, God knows, everybody knows I hate them. I hate you bastards. And I'm kidding. I'm loosely kidding. It's like Marines, right? I have to make fun of them, but God, they always look good, don't they?
They hold themselves to a higher standard for sure. The agency, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what's crazy about this scene is this is what that cop is thinking that entire time, and then we'll break it down quickly. Do you have time to break it down? I know we went an hour, but you got like 10 minutes?
Let's break it down.
All right, here we go. Let me just show you, before we break it down, what this cop is thinking.
You're suspended. Yeah, not taking you to jail.
A state trooper was just seconds away from disaster. It happened in Colorado.
All right. So, I mean, I show you all those videos to say that I don't pull cars over on the highway. I think that's the state trooper's job. I had literally made it through an 8-year career with maybe doing 2 stops on 440, which is the highway that runs through here. I just avoided it like the plague. If you got on an exit ramp and you got onto the highway, you were probably getting a ticket just because you went onto the highway. When we could have stopped on the on-ramp. I don't like doing traffic on the highway. I cannot imagine having to fight somebody on look how much traffic was in that video.
Yeah.
Right. You live in you lived in Ventura. You've been to like LA and things like that. Now this was in Washington State, but I mean, that's a lot of traffic on a busy highway. I don't know that I'm fighting anybody on that track. Now, when this first came out, the hammer wasn't part of the story. They just thought that the cops shot him on the side of the road for attacking him.
Well, of course.
Now we know there's a hammer involved.
Yeah, of course, they don't want to mention that the guy might have had a weapon, right? Got to make them all look like victims. But this reminds me of when I got into a foot pursuit and I chased the guy across a busy highway, and I had such tunnel vision to grab him. And I in the moment, these cars are like screeching to a halt, not to hit us. And that was when I was like, oh shit, this is probably much more dangerous than this foot chase I'm involved in, you know? So yeah, guys, the roadway is probably going to kill you more than anything else if you're not vigilant, for sure.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: you're an ex-cop, so you can say it, because I've been thinking about it ever since I saw this video. Again, I don't have experience in this because I didn't pull cars over on the highway. So I don't do it. You're going to get in a fight on the highway. Is it deadly force because you're on the highway? Could you articulate that I'm not going to fight him in the middle of rush hour traffic, mano a mano like that, because, or do you have an obligation to fight him and risk being smacked by a car?
No, I mean, that's a great point, you know, and I don't think it can fly because unfortunately people would argue, I'm thinking from the defense side, right? Like, well, then, you know, if you're a cop and you're going to bring someone onto the highway, well, then every kind of resisting is a deadly scenario. You know,
I'm good with that.
I mean, personally, I am too. I am the type to say you resist, like whatever follows is your fault. But like, yeah, could you imagine you pull over like some grandma on the freeway and she's like, I'm not going to give you my license. And you're like, well, this is taking too long. Bang.
No, but I mean, like, as far as like, I feel like if I were to get in a fight on the highway, now I wouldn't shoot him just because I was more afraid to shoot somebody. I'll admit it, because I don't want to go to jail. Like, prison's the scariest thing to me. So I pretty much try to not land myself in jail. I pretty much spend every day of my life saying, yeah, like, I think it's fair. It's reasonable. I really want to do cocaine, but I don't want to go to jail. So I'm not going to.
Dude, if you had addiction issues with energy drinks, I wouldn't sniff the white stuff, bro. That's going to be probably much harder to
crazy. Well, it's crazy though, because I didn't drink coffee until I was like 28. It was my first cup of coffee was at like 28. So, and I'm still not addicted to coffee. I do drink it every day, but I could easily go without coffee.
How did you not have any in the military?
Bro, I was so afraid of bro, I grew up, we didn't have we lived in the middle of nowhere. So like to go to the hospital was like an hour drive minimum. I didn't to go to the doctor was like an hour to get to a doctor. So I grew up with like no doctors, no dentists, no anything. And I didn't have any medicine. So when I started hearing about kids being on all types of medicines, I remember being in middle school and being like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys that you guys are on so much? Like I've never, I had taken like Tylenol for fever, like at one time, before I was in high school, and never missed a day of school, bro. I got the perfect attendance award, elementary and middle school. High school is different because I skipped school a lot, but, my parents just didn't do medications. I didn't do any medication. So for me, I just thought that coffee and caffeine was considered kind of a medication. So I was kind of scared of it. And everybody needed it. And I remember being like, I know I want to be in the special forces. I know I want to be a Green Beret. And I know that when I'm going through that training, they're not going to have coffee for me. So I'm going to prepare myself for that. So I went through an entire deployment as a scout, which, is a hard job to go on deployment because you're having to watch people for a very long time and trying to stay awake for 12 hours, just watching somebody through some binoculars. And I would do it and people would be like, dude, I don't know how you do it with no dip, no nicotine, no cigarettes, no nothing. They're like, how do you do it? But little did I know that at no point in my adult life was I ever in a situation where everybody around me didn't have access to coffee. You will have coffee before you have toilet paper.
Yeah, true. It's probably what I'd think about first too in the morning is my coffee as opposed to anything else. So yeah.
So I finally gave in. I was like, you know what? It seems like there is no scenario where I'll ever be like, you will not eat in special forces training, but they will have packets of coffee for you.
Wow.
So I broke down and I drank coffee, but still to this day, I like alcohol. I'm not addicted to alcohol. I could drink non-alcoholic beers like forever and be fine with that. Or I can drink real ones. I don't care. Like it doesn't either or I could care less. I don't need any of them. But for whatever it was, yeah, those energy drinks, bro, was weird for me. And so, yeah, you're probably right. The cocaine would probably be an issue.
Yeah, I think so.
That and Viagra. I tried Viagra twice.
Any fun stories?
Yeah. We got sponsored by Blue Chew for like 2 years straight, Mike the cop and I. And we were pushing it all these first responders. And one night I had a couple glasses of wine. We didn't have any of the kids. The kids were with the grandparents. And they had been sending me these Viagra's for like 2 years. I've never tried one. So I had like a stack. It came in like these little cardboard packets. I had like a stack. And I had a couple glasses of wine. I was like, I'm going to try one of these things. And let me tell you what, bro. Fucking, I think we did it like 7 times that night. It was insane. It was insane. Horniest I've ever been, ever. I remember saying like, that's too good. I'll never do that again. Because I could see how that could be a problem. So I did it 1 year later on my birthday. As a birthday treat, same effect. Fucking crazy. But I got my wife pregnant with our fifth child. So now I'm like, well, I'm not doing that again. Learn my lesson.
You named the child Viagra?
Yeah, Bluey.
Bluey. How about that? That makes sense.
But no, so let's go back to this case really quick. We'll break it down and get out of here. I guess with the hammer, it kind of changes everything. You're going to use deadly force anyway, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's such a. Is there anyone saying that that's not a good shoot? That was so clear to me.
When it first came out, it was officer shoots man charging at him on the highway. No mention in the articles about a hammer.
Yeah, of course.
And then the other headline was road rage incident with law enforcement leads to suspect killed. Basically the headline making you think that a law enforcement officer got in a road rage fit and killed the guy. And then in the video, you couldn't really tell that he had a hammer. It wasn't until a day or two later that they said that he was attacked by a man with a hammer. So when I first saw this, I was like, oh, he used deadly force because he didn't want to fight on the side of the highway in busy traffic, which is an awesome topic of conversation. Yeah. But he ruined it by having a hammer. But I still wanted to have that conversation with you. Do you have, or did you have kind of like that final, all right, I'm not going to do this on the highway, or did you ever not think about it? I mean, did you pull a lot of people over on highways?
Like you, I would try to avoid it at all costs. I mean, a couple of times where you're like, this person's driving like a freaking maniac. You know, this guy's driving on his rims and there's sparks flying. That was one time. But yeah, I would avoid it at all costs. And what my FTO taught me to do is when I get behind them, if they're trying to pull over on a highway, I can just keep following them and say, you know, pull to the right, get on the loudspeaker, like get off the next exit, get off the next exit. They don't always listen, but I would try to do that because, yeah, I mean, even if you're going to go up on the passenger side approach, you still might get wedged between that median. Super dangerous.
But just cut in half by that guardrail.
Well, one of our deputies got killed. He did a traffic stop on the freeway, and a drunk driver hit him, killed him. And it was the guy's second time. He already had been arrested for DUI. So
yeah, I think every department has that one guy that's been killed because somebody slammed into their blue lights. I mean, it's always on my brain. It's always on my brain. So even when I had cars pulled over, I was always looking at all the oncoming cars, which is also not safe, but trying to watch the suspect and watch the cars because I just never wanted to get hit by a car. I don't know. I'd like to talk to a state trooper maybe about it, but yeah, I don't know how far I'm going to fight. Like, I mean, could you articulate, like, I'll fight with this guy, but the minute he drags me over the yellow line, I'm shooting him. Like, I'm not allowing this fight to go into the highway. Like, that's deadly force.
I think, if let's say, he's pushing you, or his let's say he's stopping you from getting to safety and there's cars coming, right? Like I think you could shoot because you could articulate how quickly that could be, right? Like, let's say you guys are wrestling and you're trying to get up or get away and there's cars coming. I think you could absolutely articulate shooting them in particular circumstances. Now, if you guys are squared up and all the cars are stopped, it's obviously be difficult to articulate, but right. Yeah, like I said, like if they are keeping you in traffic, they're putting you in harm's way, and you can't articulate being able to like step out of the way and just, I guess, leave him there. Yeah. Then yeah, I think you could absolutely articulate and justify deadly force.
Yeah, I think if somebody tried to fight me on the side of the highway, like that's the first thing I would be doing was one, I'd be trying to like get to the grass. Like, hey, let's take this fight to the grass.
Yeah.
Like, let's take this on the other side. I'll fight you, but let's do it on the other side of the guardrail. Because I'm not going to get ran over by a car. It's not going to happen. But that's a scary scenario. I'm going to play it one more time and then we'll be done with it. But let's see, where is it? Is it this one right here?
Thank you. At this market in Mary, a Facebook.
So, I mean, the cop pushes the guy away. And this is not that big of a guy. The cop is definitely in better shape.
Post shows the moment when a man rushed toward a state trooper. Investigators say he had a hammer in his hand. The trooper tries to.
Now, does that look like a house arrest bracelet on him?
It's hard to tell. Could be.
Let me go back.
I didn't really notice that.
Toward a state trooper. Investigators say he had a hammer in his hand. The trooper tries to push him away.
Right? He looks
the man runs
like
toward him again, and the trooper shoots him.
Dang.
Did you see the video, separate incident, where a cop tased a dude who was running in the middle of the highway and then got ran over by a...
We covered it. We did a whole case breakdown.
Okay. I didn't see that one. Yeah.
Whole case breakdown on it. Now, I mean, it looks bad, but when you are like, when you're from it looks bad from 40 feet up or whatever they say, 4,000 feet up or whatever you say. But when you're actually in that moment, like you said earlier, the tunnel vision is in, right? Like you are so hyper focused on that suspect. You don't see the fucking cars coming. You don't see, you know that you're on a highway, you don't want to be on the highway. When you've made that decision to tase them, we're talking like probably from the time you thought about tasing them, the time you actually tase them, you're talking about a second and a half, which is a lot that happens in that second and a half that your brain's not really processing. So whereas a regular brain in a second and a half can go, oh, there's a car there, there's a car there, and there's a car there, and there's a car there. Like that's a lot that you can cover a lot in a second and a half regular thinking. But when you're in tunnel vision running and you're hyper focused, you miss everything in that 1.5 seconds. Everything.
name a profession that's within our society where you have to make split-second decisions, where your own safety and the safety of others and the public safety and all of these things it revolves around you making a decision in a split second and in a scenario of which you've never been involved in ever before.
Right.
I mean,
well, I always like to use the example when I'm trying to explain things to civilians is, a football team, they practice, right? They practice to get it right. They don't practice to get it wrong, right? How many times do you think they practice one run play?
That's probably many times. Yeah.
1,000. They probably run it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Right. So if everybody does their job, which they've practiced doing in every scenario possible, there should be a touchdown every time that running back gets the fucking football. Technically, like if you've practiced it right and that play is set and everybody does their job perfectly, that running back should score every fucking time. But that's not reality, right? Because different looks, the safety is going to go a different way. The linebackers, like you're going to get all these different looks. So even though you've practiced something in a very controlled environment and you've ran the play thousands of times, it still might not work. Now imagine showing up on game day and having no idea what play you're going to run.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, actually, since, and you might agree too, I've been in this job for a long time. It's like, it's amazing how well cops actually do in all of these tense scenarios when the training is bad. Most cops are trained poorly, minimally. I believe this. I'm going to say it out loud, that our training needs to be revamped completely. We don't do enough stress inoculation scenarios. We don't do enough use of force scenarios. We need more and better training. So we need to increase the police budget. We need to allow for more training. But yeah, I'm surprised how well cops tend to do, given that these really, what is a cop? It's a person who has some months of training in an academy. They put on a uniform and they're asked to make excellent decisions in extremely tense and complicated situations. And 99% of the time, they do make a good decision. It's pretty wild.
And they have to do it every day. 10, 15 times a day, whether they're having a good day, whether their wife's trying to divorce them, whether their kid's dying of cancer, or whether their wife's pregnant and about to have a baby, or, whether their husbands are at home cheating on them or whatever, they still have to show up and make these insanely complex decisions very quickly. And I think you're right. I think as a whole, police, I'm being in the military, having a squad of privates, oh God, nothing would get done ever. It's like, it blows my mind the amount of stupidity in the military when people try to compare the intelligence of a police officer versus the intelligence of your average private in the military. Leaps and bounds, a police officer is going to function better and be a lot smarter of a human being, generally speaking. The dumbest shit I've ever seen in my whole life was in the military. And I'm like, I can't believe they give us fucking guns and have us making any decisions. So, I do agree with you that, it is pretty impressive how far law enforcement goes without making terrible decisions all the time. But in this scenario, man, I don't know, I'm fucking shooting the guy too, but he's got a hammer. So it kind of makes like a pointless breakdown, because I think you could have shot this dude on a backcountry road with nobody around.
So I had a similar scenario. This was like a use of force scenario where you have the big TV screen and you have the weapons. And I had a similar one where I had the taser first, then he pulled out a weapon, and then I pulled out my gun and I tased him, left hand taser, right hand gun. And then the class was divided. Some people were like, I really liked that. That was great. And then some other people were like, that was dumb, whatever. I don't know. What do you think about that? Just with your experience, like taser, one hand, gun, the other. Okay. Try the taser. Doesn't work. He's still coming at you with the hammer. Shoot him.
Yeah. But I mean, like, sympathetic reflexes come into play. And how do you train for that?
It's tough.
You know what I mean? Like, even like doing this and then trying to switch. You see, I just did it and I'm fucking trying to do it, but like trying to.
You see that happens. And that actually was a point that people made. It's like, well, and
it's like, maybe it's not you. Like maybe you can do it, right? Like some people can bat left-handed and right-handed in baseball. Some people can eat with their left hand and use their knife and fork. It's different for everybody, but I think generally speaking, probably not the safest idea. But if you got it, baby, if you've trained that way and you got it and you're confident and you're worth taking that gamble, I mean, that's on you. You didn't shoot him, but would it be a policy? Would it be a tactic that I teach to everyone? Fuck no.
Heck yeah, no, true.
Fuck
nope,
no.
Can't.
fucking, I'm a big fan of, I think that if you're a good supervisor, you should have your monthly, you should have your guys go through taser gun drills, like draw your pistol. All right, put it back, turn around. Now face me. And then you got like a knife in your hand and they pull out the gun and you drop the knife and they have to holster the gun and pull out the taser. And then you go to pick up the knife and they have to holster the thing and reholster. I think those drills are super good because in that scenario, like in real life, you might be saying, oh, I should holster this and pick this up, but I also need to be getting on the radio and doing all these other things. And you forget a step and then you accidentally shoot the guy and yell taser, 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 which I don't have a problem with. But as we've seen in the courts with that female officer in, I guess it was like Portland or whatever, that accidentally, she could have used deadly force, but she yelled taser, taser, taser and shot him and they gave her fucking jail time for it. Even though she could have used deadly force, but because she yelled taser, taser, and then she went, oh, fuck, I didn't mean to shoot him. Like if she would have said any of that, she would have been fine. And the whole world and the media went bazonkers. So I think that you got to do a little bit of mixed training with holstering that taser and redrawing your firearm. And, I broke my leg by misholstering. I was getting in a fight with a guy. Before I fought him, I wanted to get my gun in the holster. I missed my holster. I looked down as he's charging me to get it into the holster, realized I wasn't going to get it back into the holster. And then I caught him, underhooks. And then I tried to throw him with underhooks and my leg stayed one way. My body went the other with my gun in my hand and I broke my leg. And as I tell the story, I thought I sent 4 rounds down range. Like I thought I shot 4 bullets off. I didn't. It was my leg snapping in 4 different places, but it was a misholster. I was running backwards and trying to holster to get in the fight and I missed my holster. And so I took my eyes off of him to look down at the holster to do it. And so I'm a big fan of practicing just simply getting your gun back into its holster. And now if you got your taser on your left-hand side, you should probably practice putting your taser away, because if you pull a taser out and you pull a knife out, I have to holster that taser and then get my gun out. Or I could do like you and fucking dual wield, which if you got it, you got it. But
it's tough.
You should practice.
That's
practice holstering and reholstering just in case, right?
Hearing snaps from your own injuries is a different experience. I've done the same. It's definitely different.
Yeah, I did. It was bizarre. I did not know my leg was broke. I mean, I knew it was broke pretty quickly when I couldn't move it and I couldn't stand up and it was 180 degrees the wrong way. Oh. But when it went off, I literally was looking for shell casings on the ground. When I got to the ground, I was like, where are my shell casings? I don't know why that was what went through my head, but I was like, where are the shell casings?
Yeah. You didn't really feel the pain of the leg snapping initially, right?
None.
Yeah.
And then when I went to cause he was stomping me in the head, like he was trying to get away from me. So he was pushing off my head with his foot because he had fallen. And so as he was getting up, he was kind of kicking me. And so then I reached up to grab that leg. And that's when I felt a pain in my groin. And I thought I shot myself in the dick, but it wasn't. It was just, I'd broken my leg below the knee, but the pain was shooting up through my groin. But yeah, for a second I was like, fuck, did I shoot myself in the dick? And then I was like, no, because my gun was way up here. I was thinking all of that.
Yeah.
While trying to get this dude apprehended who had just, attempted murdered somebody, bludgeoned them with a bedpost. So yeah, but yeah, in that moment I was like, for sure I'd shot my gun.
Yeah. It's weird what your brain goes through and what you can think about when you're in the mix.
It's weird. Yeah. And so when you're going through these shootings, like we just saw here on this thing, all that shit's still going through your head. There's 1,000 things going through that trooper's head. I wish I could talk to him and figure out what they were though. But I mean, it was 1,000 things. Oh, traffic being probably the main one.
Right. I love when, I'm sure you've reviewed this one. Remember when they got that leader of the anti-police marches? I think he might have been a reverend of some kind. They had him do the use of force scenarios.
Oh, yeah. That was in LA, wasn't it?
I think so. And he completely failed. He was shooting unarmed people and stuff doing the scenarios. And afterwards he's like, this was really eye-opening. It made me realize that when, you ought to listen to cops. You ought to respect what they have to say. No kidding.
Yeah. Well, we had that shooting with the Air Force cat. And, there's a lot of arguments about that. But I try to mention this, but nobody's listening because everybody just thinks because they feel a certain way that you're an idiot if you don't feel the same way. But I told this one guy that was getting very heated with me, calling me retarded and a bootlicker. And I said, okay, maybe I am those things. But let's look at the chats and the comments here. 50% of the people agree with me, and 50% of the community agrees with you. So what do you think a police department's going to be? That means like 50% of that police department is going to shoot you and 50% is not. Whether it's right or wrong, at this point, you have a 50% chance that you're getting shot for this. Do you really want, just because you have a constitutional right to open the door with a gun, do you think it's wide? Like, do you want to take a 50% chance of getting blasted? Which I still argue, I don't think there's any tactical advantage that if somebody is physically knocking at your door and you open the door with a gun, that there's any tactical advantage to that. If somebody's knocking at your door and you don't know who it is, how about don't answer the fucking door until you figure out who it is?
Right. It's like you have the legal right to cross a crosswalk, especially after you press the button. But shouldn't you exercise caution, because maybe one of those drivers coming up isn't going to make a good decision?
Bro, every time I get a green light, I look both ways. Just because I have a green light does not mean that you're going to pay attention to it.
Right. It's like, still, maybe exercise some caution. Maybe answering the door with a gun in your hand might freak someone out. Maybe it's going to be a cop who doesn't make the best decision in that moment. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
and even if it's a bad guy, you're still going to lose that fight because you're still reacting to him. So opening the door is just the dumbest thing fucking ever. Like, if you think that you need to have a gun in your hand when you open the door, unless you are like punched out and then you open the door, still he's going to get the first shot, right?
I'm trying to think of a scenario where I would open the door with my gun at the high ready. Well, I literally can't think of a single one, because if there's a danger there, what exigency do I have to open that door?
Yeah.
So if you think you need a gun to open the door, why are you opening the door?
Bro, go on our failure to stop Instagram, and like there's like 400 comments, and like you'll see how many people are like, "What do you mean? It's I open the door with a gun all the time."
Oh yeah, because I have my EDC at 2 in the morning when I'm sleeping, and then I get up with my EDC and I punch out.
Where do you live that you need to open your fucking door with a gun? Like, maybe you should move. If I felt the need, like even if somebody knocked on my door at 2 a.m., my first instinct would be to have my gun. But I would be like, yo, who is it? And I would be not expecting somebody to be like, I'm here to rob and kill you.
Right.
Like and I'd be like, it'd be like, Marcus. And I'd be like, what you need, Marcus? I need to use your phone. Yeah, dude, not tonight. Wow. Come back tomorrow morning. We'll talk. But like, not right now, Marcus. Matter of fact, I'm going to call the police just to make sure that you're safe and I'm safe. So the police are on their way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like,
why can't you just figure out who's on the other side and whether or not you want to open the door before you have your gun at the high ready? I don't understand that.
Yeah. Now, if I look out my window and you're like stealing shit out of my car, and this is the country, I know I'm probably going to be pretty good. I might run out the back door, come around the side of the house, all tactical and shit, and be like, wrong car, motherfucker. Maybe, but I'm not opening up my front door with my gun in hand. I just think it's bad practice. Like, there's a 1,000 ways to skin a cat, for sure. But like, this might be a little bit more than that,
Yeah, 100%. Right.
But I'll tell you what makes it easier to make these decisions. Being
fit and healthy. Yeah. Well, you're going to think more clearly, right?
Where can we go? Where can we get fit at? What's the best way to get fit?
Well, of course, through the Fit Responder program. Now, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, as you say, but we tend to have really good reviews and people tend to really like our program. So check us out if you want to get fit and healthy and get coached personally. One-on-one coaching, custom programs, fitresponder.com.
Yeah. I heard if you subscribe, you may or may not be able to touch the mustache once you reach a certain level of training.
That's an upcharge. That's for our VIP program. That's if you want to touch the stash.
Dude, how much shit do you get for the stash? Last note.
Dude, so much. And I'll tell you the truth. I told Tyler this. I only keep the stash now mostly for business. My wife actually likes it a little bit, but I grew it just for fun as a cop. And when I started Fit Responder, I got so many people that said, I wouldn't have even given your program a thought, but your mustache was so ridiculous. I had to listen. I had to go, who is this guy? I want to listen to what you have to say. And then they're like, you know what? I do want to get fit. This program does sound good. So it's a nice icebreaker and it helps the brand. So I'll keep it. Sure.
So a few years ago, our wolf pack here wanted me to get a haircut. And I said, what kind of haircut? And somebody said a mullet. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting a mullet. And then somebody said, what would it take to get you a mullet? I said $1,000. And within like, I don't know, like 30 minutes, they had super chatted over $900.
Really?
And so I've had the mullet for 2 years now. And like you said, it's like a mustache for your head. But so many people have to ask me about my mullet.
Oh, the mullet.
And then I can tell them that I have a podcast. And that's where I got the mullet from. They're like, why do you wear a mullet? I'm like, well, I lost a bet on a podcast. Failure stop.
Have you heard of us? Yeah, it segues nicely.
Well, hey, man, we love having you on. Thanks for filling in. Sorry the breakdown wasn't as breakdownish, but I really wanted to, I think the Fit Responder was a good break from breakdowns. I don't think first responders get enough shame for, you should feel ashamed. Like if you're a first responder, it should make you feel uncomfortable. If you're a fat first responder or you're making unhealthy life decisions, it's okay to feel a little uneasy when listening to something like this. It's a sign, right? It's a sign that we can do better tomorrow, and you can get better tomorrow by 1, getting a good night's sleep on a ghost bed, 2, eating a healthy diet, and 3, following a healthy fitness plan. And you can find that at fitresponder.com. So go and check them out, guys. Make sure you hit up that Facebook group as well. Support them on Instagram, YouTube channel. I've already subscribed, so you should subscribe as well. For myself and Ted from fitresponder.com, this has been a Failure to Stop breakdown-ish. Until next time, guys, guns up and giddy up.
See y'all.